Well, frankly speaking, I was working on another video when I accidentally found that some new Ringed City DLC screenshots were published, and possibly I wouldn't really have to put my current work on hold in order to make a separate video about these new screenshots if they weren't provided with some very peculiar descriptions. Please note that I can only present the descriptions as I found them in the source that you can find in the description of the video. So, in this short video, I'd like to briefly discuss some really intriguing stuff, though, of course, without the complete picture all of the following would be just a wild speculation, and the first thing I'd like to talk about is this artwork depicting a sleeping woman we saw in the announcement trailer. The description of the artwork that I found goes as this.
Under the soft light of sunset, a woman sleeps everlastingly. Covered by overly grown bacillus, she is holding a half-cracked shell. Her name is Filiana. Her sleep is meant for the sake of others.
And, of course, what is the most interesting to me is the name that is revealed by this description. However, learning from the past experience with the name Lap, which originally was mistakenly revealed as Rap in similar screenshot description, as the original game's text is in Japanese, which doesn't have an L sound and thus uses syllables with R sound instead. I guess for now we should consider the name of the sleeping woman, Firianaru, both as Filiana and Firiana, as I'm still not quite certain about the L or R in it. And, actually, I guess that it may possibly be a more correct name with R, and I'll soon explain why. However, it's really hard to tell for sure without actually playing the game and knowing the lore. But, anyway, regardless of the first part of the name, which is either Philly or Firi, the second part of the name appears very peculiar and I believe very familiar to us. Anor. I guess that the first thing that comes to our mind is that it's Anor as in Anor, whose name we discussed in detail in an earlier video, which is basically a word from the Elvish languages created by J.R.R. Tolkien, which means sun. And so, taking that Anor part of her name is indeed an Elvish Anor for sun, I believe that it would really be correct for the first part of this name to be also taken from Tolkien's Elvish. But, basically, I guess that there isn't an Elvish element that would be exactly Philly, though there's a Kenya word fillet which means small bird, and also in his works Tolkien uses name Philly, but it's actually a real-life Old Norse, Germanic name, which would mean Phyla, and thus is not Elvish. However, very peculiar appears to be the element fear, which means to die, to fade. For example, we may see it in word Furiath, which means mortal men, humans. And thus, if that name is Firiana, but not Filiana, it may mean dying sun, fading sun, or possibly mortal sun. Which is extremely intriguing to me, as the dying, fading sun would actually fit the sunset mentioned in the artwork's description. But, even more peculiar is the mortal sun possible meaning, as the DLC takes place in Ringed City, which, as we discussed in earlier video, likely has its name for the dark sign, Dark Ring, associated with undead, mortal humans, as opposed to the race of gods. And basically is called a city of pygmies, which is basically the word which would most likely be used by the gods to refer to humans, as they're smaller than gods in size, for instance, the furtive pygmy. And, even if I'm wrong and the name is indeed supposed to be Filiana, I'd still like to mention this interesting thing, because, I guess that aside of numerous and overt berserk references, inspirations, Dark Souls also has some similar things with Tolkien's works, aside of names taken from languages created by him. As, while it's of course not totally the same, there still is this topic of contradistinction between mortal humans who are to take the world and withering immortals meant to leave the world and give way for human age to arrive, Tolkien's elves who don't truly die, and gods of Anor Londo in Dark Souls. Though, Tolkien's elves eventually willingly leave Middle-earth for immortal lands of Valinor, while Gwyn actually resists the coming of the Dark Age of Men. Or at least that's what Kaz tells us. And basically the fading sun meaning of the name and sunset lights mentioned in description may also be somewhat a symbol of the coming of the Dark Age of Men. However, aside of Tolkien's meanings of the name Firiana, which for now seem to be the most intriguing to me, other interpretations may turn out to be the real meaning of the new name. As, for example, it could be a name similar to Eleanor, which we already discussed in older etymology videos, and which basically translates as another Ainur. However, Ainur is actually a name of somewhat an unclear meaning, possibly being derived, in a complicated way, from the feminine form of name Ardima created from Proto-Germanic elements or as treasure, and Meri as famous. While Fi may be actually taken as, already mentioned, word of Germanic origins that would mean Phyla. Alternatively, we may also note Old Irish word Fili meaning poet, seer, derived from Proto-Celtic Wellis of the same meaning. But, another interesting possible meaning of Fili would be as Latin Fili meaning daughter. and basically the name is of a female character, and thus it could indeed mean daughter of An or daughter of Sun, which is quite intriguing, isn't it? But, I myself think that it would be kind wrong to mix real-life Latin and fictional Sindarin, thus I don't think that it's the likeliest meaning, as that would be a little weird. While it could be less weird, though still a little strange, as combination of Latin Philia and Ainor, which is a Latinized form of Germanic name. Alternatively, Philia could be derived from ancient Greek philia, meaning love, friendship, affection. While Nor element may be as English Nor, Dutch Nor for imprisonment, prison, or possibly as Norman word for north, or it could still be An or but as Old French word for honor. And, returning to the Firi version of the name and considering real-life languages, I guess we may notice Chirin Firia's first-person singular indefinite preterite indicative of Firi, meaning to strike, to beat, to hit. But, truth be told, I guess it's hard to tell for sure for now, without complete picture, and simply listing all the numerous possibilities without solid arguments is not that helpful. And, possibly, some new meanings will become apparent later, when the DLC is actually released. However, I still hope that this discussion was interesting for you. And now let's proceed to other interesting images and their descriptions. I guess I don't even need to comment this peculiar artwork and its description much.
Clothes that were worn during the Age of Gods. Also very rare to see armor for women. With an elegant touch of fashion, only people from the royal family were able to wear this armor.
Obviously, the mention of gods and old royal family makes us think of Gwyn's family. And mention of armor for women may actually remind us of certain dancer. But even more exciting is the possible similarity between woman wearing the armor and Priscilla or Yorshka. So, hopefully, we'll get more info about Gwyn's family. And, another image description mentions some pilgrim pupa, though I'm not sure whether is it even a name. A creature which is similar to pilgrim pupa. Corpses have grown under the creature, as it raises its head to the red sky, looking down upon the angels. Its name is Stonehuntag. It may look weird, but it's what I was able to find in the source that I linked to in the video's description. And it's written as pupa with capital letters, so I present it here as I found it. Well, pupa is basically a Latin word for doll or little girl, also used in word for eye pupil. Basically English word pupil in this meaning is derived from Latin. But in fact pupa is also an insect in its development stage between a larva and an adult. Which appears interesting, as on this image we are dealing with some creature, and the description mentions both pilgrims and angels, so I believe that together with this insect stage meaning, it's rather related to those pilgrim butterfly angels. Thus possibly finally shedding light on relation between Lundor pilgrims and pilgrim butterflies. But that's just a speculation, and let's proceed to another peculiar screenshot and its description. A dragon that breathes fire. As it sinks into the darkness, black crystals that appear on its body fly into the air. At last, the dragon may be consumed by the darkness. Well, naturally mention of dragons and darkness actually reminds us of the Abyss and Calamity. And, although it might be another trick, as the one with Father Ariandel shown between characters related to Queen of Lotharic, on the screenshot we may see a warrior in Norse armor, unlike previous footage with player character wearing a knight's set, which is peculiar as it may remind us of the Norwood Knights, whose gear is also inspired by medieval Scandinavian armors and shields, and who had some Abyss dragon as their enemy. And the last screenshot I'd like to mention is this one depicting Lap. Is he depicted sitting in Patch's squat way? I'm not really sure, but that would be rather interesting given the meaning of his name we discussed in my previous video. Well, basically these are not the all revealed screenshots, but these were especially interesting to me, so I was forced to put my current work on hold, for sake rest, and hurry up to make this video. So, I guess that it would be it for now. Thanks for watching. I hope that the video was interesting to you and made the new DLC even more intriguing. Also, you can check out video description for a link to more new screenshots with description. And I'd like to apologize once again for obvious uncertainty of the video, as without knowing the exact story it's not really much more than baseless speculation, and it's actually yet another such video in a row. But I still hope that it was interesting, and maybe you'd like to check out other videos on my channel, discussing some more certain lore and etymology things, or possibly historical or berserk cosplays. Also, you can check out the video description for a link to the etymology video's table of contents, if you're interested in this topic, as it's meant to make it easy to find the discussion of the necessary names.